So let's just, yeah, this is a little bit like it's not about anything happening around the world just for a second, but I found this really interesting, so I really wanted to share it with you guys. So yeah, check this out. Okay, so this is from Medical News Today, and it's just an article about what religion does to your brain. So I found the findings of this like proper interesting because of what it says about the different prayers. So let me just read this to you a bit. Whether or not a divine power truly does exist might be a matter of opinion, but the neurophysiological effects of religious belief are scientific facts that can be accurately measured. Here we take a look at some of these effects as shown by the latest research. Whether you're a staunch atheist, a reserved agnostic, or a devout believer, you are equally likely to find the effects of religion on human brains astonishing. Religious belief can increase our lifespan and help us better cope with disease. Horace, we're screwed, mate. But there's other alternatives because look what it's like. Look what it's equal to. And research in the field of neurotheology, or the neuroscience of theological belief, has made some surprising discoveries that are bound to change how we think about spirituality. For instance, some scientists suggest that religious experience activates the same brain circuits as sex and drugs. No wonder people are so hung up on religion.
Yeah.
I get it now.
Oh, yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Oh yeah. No wonder when they're having a good time they think of God at that time as well.
Fairs, yeah. Other research has suggested that damage to a certain brain region can make you feel as though someone's in the room when nobody's there. Muhammad with Gabriel, who knows? Such findings have intriguing implications for how religion affects health and vice versa. Also, do the neurobiological underpinnings of religious experience mean that it could be artificially recreated? If a divine experience proves to be biologically predetermined, does having the right scientific information enable us to create the illusion of a god? Below, we take a look at some of these questions. While researchers may not have all the answers yet, pieces of the puzzle are coming together to form a scientific picture of divinity that is shaping up to be quite different from those we find in the holy books. Surprise, surprise. This is why it pays to be on the side of science, people.
Yeah.
Anyway, check this out. Go on.
Ooh, MRI scans. Yeah. No,
okay, go on. Let's check this out, yeah? So different religions have different effects. Dr. Andrew Newberg, who's a professor of neuroscience and the director of the Research Marcus Institute of Integrative Health at the Thomas Jefferson University and Hospital in Villanova, PA, explains that different religious practices have different effects on one's brain. Okay, so namely, different religions activate brain regions differently. So let's see what Islam does to the brain later, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Do they show this?
Yeah. I literally was like, what? Anyway.
But what kind of a Muslim though? Osama bin Laden kind of Muslim, or some Mahdi Nawaz kind of Muslim?
That's engaged in one of the prayers. Just all you got to do is be praying Islamically, yeah? We've all been there. Okay.
I want to see a jihadi's brain scan.
Oh, that's a whole nother can of worms, my friend. Anyway, the researcher who literally wrote the book on neurotheology, love that word, draws from his numerous studies to show that both meditating Buddhists and praying Catholic nuns, for instance, have increased activity in the frontal lobes of the brain. These areas are linked with increased focus and attention, planning skills, the ability to project into the future, and the ability to construct complex arguments. Also, both prayer and meditation correlate with a decreased activity in the parietal lobes, which are responsible for processing temporal and spatial orientation. Nuns, however, who pray using words, this is really interesting as well, because when you're meditating, you're not really focusing on words, but nuns are more chanting and they're reciting prayer. So there's more of a linguistic element to it. So because they pray using words rather than relying on visualization techniques used in meditation, it shows an increased activity in the language processing brain areas of the subparietal lobes. Okay, as expected. But other religious practices, drumroll, can have the opposite effect on the same brain area, okay? The opposite effect of increasing focus and attention, planning skills, projecting complex arguments.
Right.
For instance, one of the most recent studies co-authored by Dr. Newberg shows that intense Islamic prayer, which has at its most fundamental concept the surrendering of oneself to God because you're a slave, because That's what a Muslim means.
Yeah.
Reduces the activity in the prefrontal cortex and the frontal lobes connected with it, as well as the activity in the parietal lobes. The prefrontal cortex is traditionally thought to be involved in executive control or willful behavior, as well as decision making. So the researchers hypothesize it would make sense that a practice that centers on relinquishing control would naturally result in decreased activity in this brain area.
That's a very good point. So basically, yes, you're just, and this is the reason, you know what, I was just thinking of that. So basically, at the end, the conclusion was, so certain religions, and I don't know why nuns would be in that, because you said that because they're reading it, that's why it helps them focus. But Muslims are also reading it, you know, like the At-Tahiyyatu and all of these things. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. They're reading it too. But
that's true. They are essentially like reciting prayer in the same way.
So they should also it should also help them gain focus. But I know because most of them it's just memorized.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's memorized, so it becomes second nature to you. And some people, you could actually be thinking about something else, but you would just be moving your lips and reciting that verse. And most of the time, we don't even know what it means in the Arabic anyway. So the spiritual element of that is that, okay, we're not thinking anything, no focus. I'm just doing it for God's happiness. And he's doing it. And that's why he's being a slave. And they're happy being slaves. One example of that is they will reject this medical report. But had it said, the first line, actually, no, someone who only reads the headline, they're like, yes, see, proven. Religion is helpful for a better human life, which also
you live longer. Like, get on board.
Which doesn't mean that it's true. Because,
but if science recreates it and it's this good, I mean, thankfully, we still have sex and drugs to tap into if we need to recreate that experience. If not, if we want to stay on the straight and narrow and for some reason be celibate, science can also now start recreating the exact experience. I mean, first of all, you clearly don't want to even replicate the Islamic experience neurologically, right? Because it's doing you no favors whatsoever. So if anything, if you want to recreate some, like, I mean, for example, like if I wanted to like just experience transcendental meditation at one point, but I wanted to experience like the
download Sam Harris's app.
Yeah, I know, I'm not into all of that. But
So basically, these guys, but they would accept it initially if it suits their religious bullshittery. But if they read the last part, they'd be like, actually, they might not even have any problem with that as well, because they're happy being slaves. They would say, yeah, that's the whole purpose of that. We want to be slaves. We are, you know, like we're not thinking about focusing or thinking about anything. We're just happy. We're just doing this for our God. So actually, no, they might actually like it. But where's the scan? I want to see the scan of a jihadi.
Yeah, well, next week I'll try and find you one.
All right.
If you like these videos and want to support me in my activism, then you can support me on Patreon or PayPal. Stay free, everyone.